Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today I'm coming to you with my February's Timmy TBR. Every month I play Timmy's TBR. It is my TBR game based off my love for Tim Hortons coffee and all the coffee I drink at Tim Hortons, which is in excess. And I made a board game around it, and we play it to determine what books I have to read in February. Before we do that, we usually go into what books I'm rolling over from the past month. However, I'm not rolling over any books. I completed my January's Timmy's TBR.
We did it.
I'm so excited. It has been a hot minute since I completed a TBR, and I've done it. So I have no rollovers, and we're jumping into a brand new month with February, and hopefully Timmy's TBR is kind to me again because January went very, very well. All the books fit into videos I was doing. It was perfect. It all just lined up and was fabulous, and I'm hoping this month does the same thing, but let's jump into the rolls and see how it goes. Roll number 1 is a 6. A series spinner wheel space. So for our first roll for Timmy's TBR this month, we got a series spinner wheel space, and for that we have spun the wheel. And as you saw, we got the Aurelian cycle. I need to read the second book in this series. I read the first book, Fireborn, earlier last year, and now I am going to continue. I'm actually very excited to continue. I really liked this dragon world. I felt like a lot of the themes in this book are very similar to the themes in Fourth Wing. However, this is much more political fantasy versus fantasy romance. And for me, that fit me a little bit better. I do want to become a fan rogue girly this year, but for me, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Fourth Wing. And I think some of the problem with that was that I read them very close together. I read them, I think, within a month of each other. And because I had loved this so much and given it 5 stars, I had a hard time sinking into Fourth Wing. However, I am excited to continue because I haven't continued and I don't really know why, but I haven't. So now I get to go back to my dragons and to Lee and Annie. So in the first book, because obviously I can't go into the synopsis of book 2 because obviously it would spoil the first book, we have Lee and Annie. They are both orphans. They grew up in an orphanage together and are very, very close. Now they are moving their way up in the dragon fighting military quadrant and are starting to become dragon riders. They come from very different origins of this war. So when they were children, there was a war and the people overthrew the reigning aristocratic regime. Lee is a child of one of those families. He watched his family be murdered by the people of this country. Annie became an orphan when the aristocrats, before they were killed and overthrown, were kind of killing the people of their nation and ruled with a very iron fist. So they meet as children and as orphans, but kind of from opposite sides of this situation. And Lee realizes that his family was doing some really horrible things and forms a friendship with Annie and then moves into the new regime's dragon riders. However, there are some surviving people from the original reigning families, and they are going to try and get back their kingdoms. And Lee and Annie are kind of trying to decide where they're going to fall in this war. Roll number 2 is a 7, a 10-bit space, book under 250 pages. For our second roll, we have a Timbit space, and Timbits here, if you don't know, are donut holes, and they are tiny, so this prompt is kind of based off that, and I got a prompt of a book under 250 pages. I'm going to start Martha Wells' Murderbot series with All Systems Red. This is a sci-fi series, and I think all the books are novella-sized. They're quite small and going to be very easy to get through. I have the first book on my Kindle. So from what I can tell from this synopsis, this follows a android who is for a company and does like security, and they refer to themselves as Murderbot. Murderbot really is supposed to do security on this planet, supposed to kind of keep security for the company, but really just wants to figure out who they are and what they want. I think this is going to be really interesting because it is a robot, but it seems to have some sentient abilities. So I'm excited to see how this plays out over the entire series. but I'm only planning on reading book 1 in the month of February. If I end up reading more, that's great, but book 1, all systems red on the TBR. Roll number 3 is a 5, a donut space, a baking romance. For roll number 3, we got a baking romance, and for this, I'm going to pick up the 3rd book in the Love Light Farm series, Mixed Signals. This series, I have mixed reviews on. I loved Love Light Farms. I gave it 5 stars. I love the small town vibes. I love this Christmas tree farm. I loved it. The 2nd book had a lot of miscommunication, and I only gave it 3 stars. So I'm hoping book 3 is more like book 1 in the feels and the vibes. Like I said, I love the small town feel in this. And in each book, we follow somebody new who works at this Christmas tree farm. In this book, we follow Layla. Layla is the baker at the Christmas tree farm because there's also like a restaurant and Layla runs that. So hence a baking romance because Layla is a baker. And I'm expecting a lot of the romance to kind of be set at the Christmas tree farm around Layla in the kitchen, etc. And I believe her love interest name is Caleb. Yes, Caleb. We meet Caleb in the first 2 books, and we know that Caleb has quite the crush on Layla. Layla is really jaded when it comes to romance, so Caleb has been flirting with her. Everyone around them knows that Caleb has a crush, and Layla kind of knows it too, but she's very jaded about love and doesn't want to necessarily dive in, so I'm assuming we have to watch her overcome that in this book. But I feel like there's also an age gap. Why I think that, I'm not sure. It's not in the synopsis of this book, so I could be totally off on that. But I feel like in the previous 2 books, it's discussed that Layla is older than Caleb. And I think that's also one of the reasons she doesn't want to jump into that. But again, why I'm thinking that, I don't know. So take that part of this synopsis with a grain of salt. Roll number 4 is a 10. A coffee space, a graphic novel. For our 4th roll, we got a coffee space and the prompt of graphic novel. For this, I'm actually going to read a manga. I want to read at least 1 manga a month this year. And the book I'm going to be doing is Love Me for Who I Am. This manga was recommended to me by Ren from the Reading Ren. Ren is kind of the person or one of the people that I go to for manga recommendations as I'm diving into this new genre of reading. I don't know where to start with manga, so when Ren tells me to read it, I do. And I have found that contemporary manga tends to be the manga that I like the most from the very little bit that I have tried. I am still diving in. I'm still learning. So always, if you have manga recommendations, please leave them down below because I'm still learning what I like in the genre. So in this book, we follow Magumo. I may be mispronouncing that, so I will look up the pronunciation as I read the book. But we follow this character. They are non-binary and they are a high school student and they're really struggling to make friends and somehow start working in a untraditional maid cafe and there makes friends and kind of grows a community with the fellow people working at this cafe. That's what the first book is about. And Ren said that I needed to read it. So I'm going to be reading it in February. Roll number 5 is a 5, a donut space, a library book. Then we got another donut space and the prompt of library book. I actually haven't picked this up from the library yet, but it is on hold. It is ready for me. I just need to get in my car and go get it. But I will have it by the time I read it, obviously. And that is Thornhenge by T. Kingfisher. This is a book that's on my 12 friends recommend me 12 books. Danny from Danny Dabbles wants me to read this book. I think Danny is right that I will love this because it is a dark fairy tale and I love a fairy tale and I love retellings. So I think this book is probably going to be a hit for me. And I've heard that from multiple people. Plus, this is Battle of the Girl Bands. This month, I'm participating in Battle of the Girl Bands. I am the host for Team Cheetah Girls, and Danny is the host for one of the other teams. I cannot think of what team Danny is on right now. I will put it somewhere here, but Danny picked this as one of her host favorites. So I will get bonus points for reading this in February as well. So it just was meant to be. Thornhenge had to go on this TBR. Plus, it's actually quite small. I have a lot of small books on the TBR this month. All Systems Red, a manga, This, I think, is just under 200 pages or just over. It's not very big. So the books this month are small, which we love. In this book, we follow Toadling. Toadling was stolen at birth and taken away to live with the Fae and has lived there ever since. Now, as an adult, the Fae have asked for a favor. Toadling needs to go back to the world of humans and offer a blessing of protection to a newborn child. This seems easy. However, the tagline is nothing is ever simple with fairies. I'm really interested to try this type of T. Kingfisher. I have read the Twisted ones, and that is more lining on the horror side of T. Kingfisher, and I didn't love it. But I do know that the author also writes these kind of fairy tale magical books with a little bit of a dark edge. So I think that might be the side of T. Kingfisher I could potentially like, such as this and Nettle and Bone. We're going to try it in February. We're going to see if Danny's right and see that I will love this book. I have a feeling that it will be a good book for me, but we'll find out. And our last roll is a 7 with a mood read. And we have made it to the end of the board. We did it. We're there with a mood read. And as tends to be the way of things, I am going to put the B&K Book Club book for February into my mood read spot. This month, we are actually doing one that a lot of people in the book club wanted to read, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a fantasy romance. I'm going to be reading a fantasy romance. I'm going to really try this year to find out what I love in fantasy romance and become a fan real girly. I just need to figure out what I love, and I hope this is it. I have very high hopes. This cover is gorgeous. This cover is beautiful. So in this book, we follow Peyton. In this world, we have elites and we have ordinaries. Elites have special abilities that they got during the time of the plague. How that works out, I do not know. And the ordinaries obviously do not have these special abilities and are basically cast away and shunned. However, Peyton is pretending to be a psychic and living with the elite, even though they're actually an ordinary. But this doesn't really work out for her because then she's placed into something called the trials, and it seems to be like a fight to the death situation. And there's also a little hint of romance between her and the prince. How that plays out, I do not know, but I'm excited to pick this up for B&K this month. If you want to join us, the link is always down in the description box below for the Discord and the sprints that we're going to be doing. And that is the end of Timmies TBR. We have 6 books this month on the TBR, and a lot of them are very, very small. So I feel like this is a very doable TBR. Come back next month to find out if I did it, but it feels very doable. I have these 3 plus 2 library books and a Kindle book. I just need to go pick up the library books. It's fine, but I will go grab those and I will have 6 books on the TBR. What is the book that is on your February TBR? Let me know down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.